Recently, we've received a lot of information about Granblue Fantasy Relink from the press event and the Granblue Fest 2023 announcement stream. The main ones being the previews of the first few hours of the game, a preview of endgame battles, the announcement of a free playable demo for Relink releasing on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 this month, and the announcement of a new playable character, Cagliostro. There was also another announcement about two characters that are planned to be added in Relink's April update. These characters were the sword user Siophon and the bow wielder Twain, who are both members of the legendary Skyfaring crew, the Eternals. I previously planned to dive into some of these recent announcements in more depth, but these recent announcements led to a lot of interesting questions being asked by you guys in the community. So for this video, I'll be answering most of those questions that were asked in Discord, on video comments, and in one of my recent community posts that asked you to send additional questions if there was something specific that you wanted to learn more about. If I don't answer your specific question in this video, it's because I either don't know the answer or it's something I'm not allowed to talk about yet. It could also be because the answer is similar to another question's answer, or because it's a question that will be answered in a video I'm already planning. But here's the first question, and if I mispronounce any of your names, please forgive me. This question comes from Kimzark on Discord, and they asked, since there will be co-op, how will they handle the servers because of the ping? If there are servers in several continents, will I be able to play with friends in Southeast Asia or America from the EU? I played the game on the PlayStation 5, and unless there are major differences between the platforms, you should be able to play with players from all around the world. There's an option to select your region in the game's network settings. This is used to match with other players from your selected region during matchmaking. But in addition to matchmaking, you should also be able to invite people from your friends list or people that you've recently matched with into your game. Hopefully they'll go into more detail about the online matchmaking systems in the second showcase happening on the 11th, so we can learn more specific information about playing online. The next question was asked on a YouTube community post by Mellow Valentine 9354, and they asked, how grindy will it be compared to the mobile version? Will we be able to hit those big dumb stupid damage numbers we could in the original Granblue Fantasy? Based on what I've seen, this game will be as grindy as you want it to be. If you just want to play through the story content, I don't think there will be much grinding that will be required. You may need to do some upgrading to improve your equipment while playing through the post-game story, but I don't think it will be too intense. What I do think will be very grindy is if you're a completionist or if you want to take part in the endgame content. Depending on how far you want to take things, you may only want to get one of your characters fully geared, which basically would mean gathering materials to craft and upgrade their equipment, fully unlocking their mastery tree, and getting them to their maximum level. But if you want to do that for multiple characters or all of the characters in the game, then your grind will increase a whole lot more. And if the drop rates for materials or equipment are anything like the original game, then you may be hunting for specific things for a while. As for the damage numbers, at release I doubt they'll get as crazy as the original game. But from what we've seen, the difference between low level damage and high level damage is still pretty huge in Relink. So I'm sure there will be enough of a difference for you to feel a power increase as you upgrade your characters. The next question is in two parts and also comes from a community post, this time from Fabzel5332, and they asked, are the multiplayer quests only for endgame content, so no co-op in story mode? The main story is single player only, however quests can be played with other people online. Quests unlock fairly early into the game, roughly an hour or so into the main story. These quests are repeatable objectives that people can do to obtain equipment and various materials that can be used for crafting or upgrading. Quests can also be played solo and offline with your own computer-controlled party members, or you can connect online and take quests with other players. Once you're done with these quests, you can return to your game and continue playing through the story solo. Their next question was, the biggest issue I have with some JRPGs is finding a big treasure chest with only one jelly inside. Is there actual loot in chests? Yes, you can find equipment, crafting materials, mastery points, and money in treasure chests. The next question is from a community post on YouTube by Roberto Lopez Melgorejo 902, and this is what they asked. Is there any Discord group or Facebook to connect with people that will play? Yes, there is. I'm currently building out a Relink section on my own Discord server so that people can use it to share advice and find other people to play with. I still need to flesh out a few of the sections before release, but feel free to join us if you want to have a community to play with on all platforms and regions. You can find us at discord.gg/Havian. I'll put the link to it in the description and pinned comment. The next few questions are ones that FBI9813 left in a video comment, and this is what they asked. How important or beneficial is multiplayer? Does multiplayer stat progression carry over to single-player story character stats? I wouldn't necessarily say that multiplayer is important, but I will say that it can definitely be beneficial. All the content in the game is designed to be completable solo and offline while using a party of your own characters. But if you play online with other players, those players will bring all of the grinding and progression that they've made with their own characters into your game. So you'll have the opportunity to take on harder content earlier, rather than trying to upgrade each of your party members one by one until they're strong enough to handle that specific quest. If you're someone that focuses on gearing a single character, while playing online with other players, you'll have the option to funnel all of your resources into that character to make them powerful, which could help you progress and unlock certain features faster than if you were trying to do everything on your own. But once you eventually have more characters geared, you'll have more flexibility to handle content with the characters you've built up yourself. So you could always use multiplayer as a way to grind up your characters so that you can eventually reach a point where you can use a party of 4 of your own characters to take on harder quests. As for the second question, single player and multiplayer use the same characters and progression. It's not that you'll enter a separate mode for multiplayer or anything like that. Story and quests take place within the same game world, but if you decide to take on a quest, you can do those quests with a party of your own characters. Or you can select one of your characters and use matchmaking to take on that quest with other people online. The next question comes from our community moderator, Rowdy, on Discord, and this is what he asked. Do bosses/enemies feel a bit like damage sponges? I answered this question in Discord, but I'm sure it could be a concern for a lot of people, so I decided to answer it in a bit more detail for this video. Normal enemies die fairly quickly and tend to come in slightly larger groups than the elite or boss type enemies. Enemies that I consider elites are slightly bigger than normal enemies and have more health and a few more mechanics to be aware of. When I was at the same level as them, they were fairly easy to take down when fighting them with my party members, but trying to fight them solo while my party members were occupied did take much longer. But the boss enemies that have a dedicated status bar at the top of the screen did have a lot of health. These enemies can take a while to beat when you're roughly around the same level as them, but I wouldn't consider them damage sponges. It is possible to deal large amounts of damage to bosses, but you have to make use of the party-based team mechanics like skybound art chains and link time. But the bosses won't make it easy for you to do this, since they have various phases that will make them more aggressive or more resistant to attacks. So it's a bit of a back and forth between being able to exploit situations to deal large bursts of damage and other situations where you'll be on the defensive while trying to avoid attacks and overcome mechanics. So while playing, it definitely didn't feel like the bosses were just sponges that soaked up damage. The bosses felt like they could be taken down quicker, depending on your own experience and ability to make use of your character and party mechanics effectively. So if you were to repeat bosses, you would most likely be able to optimize your runs so fights become much quicker. And since there's no scaling, you'll be able to take down bosses faster as you continue to improve your equipment and characters. But while you're at the same power level as bosses, just expect them to put up a fight. They're not damage sponges, but they won't sit there and make it easy for you to beat them. So at certain points during the fight, it may not seem like you're doing as much damage to them as you'd expect. The next question is also from Discord, and it's another question from Kimzark, and this is what they asked. Will we have dailies or something of the sort, like Final Fantasy XIV random raid, co-op, etc., to help queue times for older or lower level content be reduced? When I interviewed Yasuyuki Kaji, I asked if there would be any systems in place that would encourage online play. He He mentioned that there wouldn't be any login bonuses, but he did say that there would be a system in place that would let players receive a bonus to dropped items when tackling certain online quests. In a recent WCCF Tech interview, they asked a similar question, and Yasuyuki Kaji went on to share a few more details about this system. He mentioned that players will be able to access a mode known as Quick Quest once a day that would make the rewards for any random quest a little bit better. Based on what was shown in the gameplay I was sent, Quick Quest may be an option that people will be able to use to randomly match and play any quest. But selecting this option seems like it will reward players with an item known as a gold badge ticket once a day, which is most likely the item that can be used to improve the drop rates of items within a quest. Or it could be another system that hasn't been announced yet. I'd imagine this daily system will be there to incentivize players to go online and randomly match with other players that need help getting through specific quests. Even if it's just once a day, this should help give the matchmaking system additional players that are willing to take on any quest. The next set of questions is from FBI 9813 again, also from a video comment, and the first question they asked was, I only watched the anime. How far into the story does this game pick up after the anime? The story of Relink takes place a lot further into the overall Granblue Fantasy storyline. The story of Granblue Fantasy is separated into acts. Currently the main story is on Act 3, with the latest chapter being 177. This is roughly the time period where Relink is said to take place, since it was said that the crew will eventually reach a new Skydom in the main story, and that will most likely be the Zegagrande Skydom where Relink takes place. The anime shows the events that take place in the earlier portion of Act 1, which is roughly the first 30 chapters of the story. But knowing all of the events that happen in the Granblue Fantasy main story isn't required to play Relink. Granblue Fantasy has a lot of side stories that take place at various points throughout the timeline. These stories can have major events and can be very important to the lore, but they're not directly part of the main story. This is how things are going to be with Relink. Relink will take place further into the overall Granblue Fantasy story, but it branches off from the main story and it's a separate story that happens to take place while the characters are in a new area. And FBI's next question was, is the world kinda like Tales of Arise, like several large map sections connected through load screens? It's similar but not exactly the same. While some of the story areas are said to be large, there will be a few areas that are linear and have set-piece moments that you can't backtrack from. It's better to think of the main story having a tightly paced action game structure, where you constantly move forward through structured levels or stages, without the need to return to a town unless it's required by the story. The next question comes from Thijs van Brantegem 9066 in a video comment, and this is what they asked. Can you play as different characters or can they only be placed in the party? Yes, you can play as the other characters. During the main story, the captain will need to be a part of your party, but you can select which member of the party you want to control. But just keep in mind that you can't switch your control character while in combat or during quests. The next question is from Sorsiba in the community post, and they asked, can you farm crewmate cards? I mean, can you unlock all recruitable characters early in the game? I don't think you can farm crewmate cards so that you can have a stockpile of cards saved up, but you will be able to obtain enough to unlock all of the characters by reaching specific milestones in the main story and by completing specific quests. This means that you won't be able to unlock every character early in the game, so you'll have to plan ahead and unlock your most wanted characters first. But I'm not sure how things will work for characters that are added in updates. There may be another way to unlock those characters, or maybe they'll add additional quests that include more crewmate cards as first-time completion rewards. The next question was asked by Connor Lamana in a community post, and here is what they asked. For the Fate episodes, are there any of the more in-depth ones, like relationship building ones in the mobile game, kind of like how Sword Art Online has Pillow Talk? From what I've been told, there'll be a variety of Fate episodes available. I don't think any will have romance features like the Pillow Talk from Sword Art Online, but you will be able to learn more about the characters. There will be Fate episodes that give some backstory on the playable characters, so people can learn a bit more about how the crew came to encounter those characters in the original game. There will also be Fate episodes that focus on the events that happened specifically in Relink and the Zegagrande Skydom. Some of these episodes will require some reading, while others are more gameplay focused. The next question is from J.E. Mustang in a video comment, and they asked, can you replay story/quests to keep fighting the bosses and grinding? Yes, you can. Quests were created to be replayable content that you can use to hunt for specific equipment and materials, or to level your characters. As for the story, I don't know exactly how or when it will be unlocked, but I did see that there was a chapter select option which would let you replay previous chapters. We may have to wait until they share more details about that though, before we know exactly when chapter select will be available. The next two questions are from Memeshkute on Discord, and they asked, is it true that playing solo gives experience to all characters you own, even non-active ones not in the party? From what I saw, this is true while playing through the story, but the rules are different for quests. As I progressed through the story, the characters not inside of my party leveled at the same pace as the characters that I was using. For quests, it was confirmed in an interview that experience point gain will only apply to the characters in the active party. This isn't something I could check for myself though, since I didn't have the time to grind through various quests while I had a chance to play. The next question they asked was, is healing strong in the game and is a healer necessary? Healing can be strong in the game, but a healer is not necessary. I'm sure healers will still be very helpful to have within a party, but everyone will have access to a small amount of potions that they can use to recover their own health or the health of party members. Enemies will also drop little health orbs that can be used to recover a bit of your health when picked up. And if you're downed and enter a critical state, other party members can help you back up so you can continue fighting. But there are also certain quests that have objectives that may fail if you get downed too many times, so being downed is still something that should be avoided when possible. There also seem to be sigils or some kind of trait that can be used to drain a certain amount of health on hit, which is what I assume is being used by Lancelot in a previous developer demonstration. And characters like Granangita, Catalina, Io, Rosetta, Ferry, and Cagliostro can heal party members that are within range of their healing abilities. But what I don't know is if the cooldown on their skill-based healing will be low enough for people to rely on, and whether or not heals will have a cap on them like the original game. Early in the game, healers will definitely be strong and useful. I'm just not sure how much of an impact they will have late game when bosses can one or two shot you when they're in overdrive. I'm sure healing and support will still be very useful to have, but in those situations it may be more beneficial for you to use mitigation skills or perfect parry or perfect dodges. The next question is from Dangerous Army Guy in one of my community posts, and this is what they asked. Since it looks like Proto-Bahamut is both going to be a boss and be playable, how do we get to play as him? In an interview, it was said that controlling Proto-Bahamut is something that takes place during a specific story battle, and it doesn't mean that we'll be able to freely summon and control him. However, it was mentioned that we will be able to enjoy the spectacle of battling with gigantic creatures, and that there are several sequences like this throughout the game that we can look forward to. The next question is from generic user 135, who asked this question in a video comment. Does the 10 or so hours after the main story continue naturally from it, like Act 3 in a Tales game, or is it more like a slice of life episode? I don't think I can give you the answer you're looking for, since I haven't actually seen the ending of the story and how it flows into the additional story after the credits roll. But I have seen what the game looks like in its post-story state, so my guess is it's a bit of both. I assume there will be some kind of overarching goal or story that needs to be completed, but it will still have a few slice of lifestyle interactions between certain characters. I did see certain scenes play out between specific crew members and NPCs in a town after completing a difficulty rank up quest, but it's not something I can really go into much detail about since it would be spoilers. The next question is from Verlick Stone in a community post, and they asked, "We have seen a huge portion of the combat so far and it looks amazing. However, we haven't seen how gear works yet. Is it based around finding new gear and upgrading it, or just upgrading the base gear characters come with to the highest rank?" It may not seem obvious at first, but Granblue Fantasy is a very grind and loot heavy series when it comes to progression. In Relink, you can find new weapons and accessories called sigils in treasure chests or as rewards when completing quests. Both weapons and sigils have additional bonuses on them called traits that have a variety of effects, like some that can improve a character's attack or their critical rate, others that can improve specific actions like perfect dodge, and traits that have more unique effects like being able to reduce the cooldown of skills once you hit an enemy. You can also craft weapons and sigils using materials that are dropped from enemies or received as quest rewards. Traits on both weapons and sigils can be upgraded to improve their effectiveness, and even though you only start off with one sigil slot per character, eventually you'll be able to unlock roughly 10 slots that can be used to customize a character's playstyle. Kimzark from Discord has another question, this time about contribution rewards, and this is what they asked. Will the chest contain more/better rewards for MVP, like in the gacha game, like more red chests with chances of better loot? Or will the chests be the same for everyone no matter how much they contributed? Based on what I've seen so far, it seems like bonus rewards are based on how much the whole party contributes, rather than just individual characters. Things like the total amount of damage a character does and other specific achievements, like not needing to be healed during the quest or managing to complete the additional side goals, will also contribute to the total evaluation score at the end of a quest. This is at least how things seem based on offline play of your own party members. But while playing online, the total evaluation score could be heavily weighted towards your own individual contribution. It's not something I could really test, so we'll have to wait until we can try the demo or the full game before we know for sure. The reason why you would want to get a better score is because it seems like you can receive additional rewards based on the letter ranking you receive. And if it's anything like the original game, you'll most likely have a better chance of receiving the rarest items if your rank is over a certain threshold. In Relink's case, I assume you'll have more chances to receive better items if your score is in the S rank tier or above. The next question is from Vexel in the community post. What they said wasn't specifically a question, but for the sake of responding, I converted it into a question that best fits what they were interested in learning about. Will we be able to grind mastery points and finish everyone's mastery trees? Based on what I've seen, this will be possible, but just expect it to take a while if you want to finish everyone's trees. There are various ways to get mastery points, but the most straightforward way is by receiving them when a character levels up. But they can also be obtained as rewards from story mode side quests, you can get them from rewards in co-op quests, they can be found in treasure chests, and I've seen them drop from enemies when they're defeated. There could be a few other ways to obtain mastery points, but even with just these sources, you should be able to collect enough to finish every character's mastery trees. But just don't expect it to be a quick process. The next question comes from community moderator Passive on Discord, and he asked, are gear stats randomized? From what I saw, gear stats were fixed, but I didn't spend enough time playing to know if this would be the case throughout the game. What did seem like it could have some variance was the base level of the traits on equipment, since there were certain sigils that I found that had traits that were already upgraded, like finding a critical hit rate sigil that already had its trait upgraded to level 2. So far, it seems like the item drop rates will be the main thing we'll have to consider RNG wise, but there's always a chance that that will change once we get further into the game. The next question comes from Sarcasticism in the YouTube community post, and they asked, in the Digital Deluxe Edition, the game has several bonuses that I'm curious about. There are 2 different types of crystals and something called MSP, just wondering what they are used for. The glitter crystals are said to be exchangeable for in-game currency, which could be the coins used in Sierra's shop, or they could be exchangeable for rupees, which is the money used within Granblue Fantasy. The Fortitude crystals are used when upgrading weapons. During my play session, I only needed to use Fortitude shards, since my weapons were low level. but Fortitude crystals already started dropping from the Furicane boss at the end of chapter 3, so I doubt it will take too long before people will be able to start farming them. And MSP are mastery points. This is what you'll be using to unlock nodes in a character's skill tree, and like I mentioned when answering a previous question, it will be possible to get them in various ways. All of these items will give you a nice starting boost, but they're not essential since eventually you can obtain them by just playing normally. The next question is from Loveless in the Discord, and this is what they asked. What's the difference between traits and sigils? Are traits like fixed bonus stats that come with a weapon? Can weapons have multiple traits? Sigils are accessories that you can equip, and their perks are known as traits. As I mentioned in the previous answer, traits can also be on weapons. As of right now, weapons have been shown to have a single trait on them, but I assume that you'll eventually be able to find or craft weapons that have multiple traits. The next question is from Bishamon1075 in the community post, and this is what they asked. From what I see, there's a visible change from equipping different weapons, but is there one for armor as well? Or maybe cosmetics that can alter their character look? You're right in noticing that equipping different weapons will also change their visual appearance, and in addition to that, if you like the look of a specific weapon, you can use that weapon's skin while you have another weapon equipped. But this will most likely be limited to the weapons that the specific character can equip. As for armor, there are color packs that you can use to change the visual appearance of your characters, and for certain characters they can equip additional outfits or variants of their existing outfits that change their appearance. The main ones being Gran and Jita that receive a new outfit early in the main story, and Siegfried who seems to have a helmet variant of his outfit. There's an appearance customization section in the menu that will let you change your colors or appearance, including which version of the captain you want to use. But this change appearance section in the menu seems to be present on all of the characters I've used so far, so I assume that if they add more costumes for the characters in the future, this is most likely where they'll be located. The next few questions are from Doraf and That Guy DP on Discord, but since the questions are similar, I decided to answer them at the same time. Here's what they both asked. Are there any weapons that have their own unique passives? Like if you want to take a buffer/healer role as Gran or Jita, do you need to use a certain weapon? And the other question was, I don't know if this has been asked yet, but will there be ultimate weapons in Relink, like for endgame? Like each character has their own designated endgame weapon that you may have to grind for. While I'm unsure of the specific traits that weapons will have, I can say that I'll be surprised if there aren't any weapons that have unique traits on them. Based on what I've seen from some of the endgame equipment, it does seem like the weapons will be pretty powerful and you'll have to put a lot of work into getting them. But I don't know if these weapons can be customized to fit the playstyles that we want, or if there'll be a variety of powerful weapons that can be switched out depending on how we want to play. What has been confirmed though is that each character will have multiple weapons, and each character will also have weapons that can't be equipped by any other character. So the stats and traits on those weapons will most likely be specifically tailored to what that character is capable of doing. The next question is from Stinky Remy in a video comment, and this is what they asked. Do you know about the color packs that are with the special and digital deluxe editions? As it is now, it seems all the currencies from these editions can be earned in-game from seeing your gameplay, though I want to know if you can buy the colors in-game, as well as the sword we get from the special editions too. I don't think you'll be able to buy those specific 3 color packs in-game, but from what's been said, you will be able to unlock various other color packs in-game. The situation with the sword might be slightly different, but there's no way for me to confirm it yet. The Force Sword of the Apocalypse may be useful at the very beginning of the game, but I assume it will be mainly used for the weapon skin. This weapon shares the design of one of the Dark Opus weapons in the original game. If Cygames have already added that weapon series into Relink, or if they're planning to add it at some point, then that may be another way for people to get their hands on that skin. But just keep in mind that's not a confirmation that we'll ever be able to get it separately. The next 2 questions come from Darkaskus in the community post, and they asked, can we turn off the dialogue quips during combat? They are a bit much. Most of the time the party are just talking on top of each other. It's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it until you finish with the story. You can turn down the dialogue volume in the game, but this will most likely turn down all of the dialogue, including during cutscenes. So I guess you could turn it down when you're not doing anything story related, and then just turn it back up during story cutscenes. The next question was, does the game support DLSS or FSR on PC? Unfortunately, I haven't seen the PC version firsthand, so I haven't had a chance to go through the options yet. What has been shared so far, according to the NorCal Granblue Twitter page, is that on PC, Relink will support high frame rates up to 120 FPS, as well as high resolutions. They also mentioned that portable PCs such as the GPD Win 4, Steam Deck, and similar devices will all be able to run Granblue Fantasy Relink. This may not be the answer you were looking for, but hopefully you'll find the additional info useful. The next question is another spec-related question that comes from Breezefort in the video comments, and they asked, what's the minimum and recommended specs for PC? The minimum and recommended specs for Relink are available on the Steam page for the game. I'll display them on screen, but head over to the Steam page if you want to see the specs and other PC-related info in more detail. The next question is from Faki Haryanto 3700 in the video comments, and they asked, may I ask if the graphics in the graphic mode is quite different from the performance mode, aside from the obvious performance differences? I've only ever played the game in performance mode on the PlayStation 5, but I'd expect the visuals to be better in the 4K 30fps quality mode, and in the 1080p 60fps performance mode, I'd expect the game to consistently hold its frame rate during the more intense battles. So far, I haven't run into any issues frame rate wise while playing, but hopefully we'll be able to compare both modes once the demo is available. The next question is from Spoke6966 in the community post, and this is what they asked. Can R1, R2, L1, L2 be customized? I want to cast skills with L2. From what I saw, there was limited customization of controls. It may be possible that I just missed the menu for it, but from what I saw, you could only swap the L1, L2 positioning of guard and lock-on. You might be able to configure the controls in the accessibility settings of the PlayStation 5, but I haven't seen a way to do it in-game yet. Give it a try if you have a chance to play the demo. The next question is from Yoshio97 in a community post, and they asked, can I tinker with the team's AI? I mean, can I set up rules for them to use X spell if I use Y? There's no specific rules that you can set to alter your team's AI. You can have some control over what they do based on the skills and equipment you give them, but you won't be able to fine-tune the way they react to specific situations. Having your teammates react to your specific abilities can be useful in some scenarios, but it can also limit how well the characters perform their individual gameplay mechanics. From what I've seen, the AI is pretty smart though, so you may be able to learn each character's quirks based on the loadouts you've given them and find a way to effectively cooperate with them. The next question is from Fawa Art in a community post, and this is what they asked. Is there any news about an Xbox release? Unfortunately not. It would be nice if the game was releasing on more platforms so more people could play, but as of right now it is only releasing on PlayStation and on PC. The next question is from Lendy V in a video comment, and they asked, how to get this game early access? If you purchase the game digitally on PlayStation, you'll be able to start playing the game a little bit earlier. This is what the official website had to say. Early access benefits grants the right to play Granblue Fantasy Relink a few days earlier than the official release. Early access play begins at 7 AM, January 28th, 2024 PT, but may be rescheduled for maintenance or other reasons. Contents may change without prior notification. If you're asking because you were wondering how I was already playing the game, it's because Cygames invited me to play Relink at an event so I could show people what it's like. But since a demo for the game is releasing this month, you'll have a chance to give it a try too if you own a PlayStation 4 or 5. And the final question of the day is from Terry961, who left this question in a video comment. Can you choose Chinese subtitles? Yes, there are various language options in the game. Relink supports English and Japanese voiceovers, but it also supports English, Japanese, Italian, German, Spanish, Brazilian Portuguese, simplified and traditional Chinese, Korean, and French interface and subtitle options. That was a lot of questions to get through, but hopefully it gave you the information you wanted to know before the game releases. I'm sure there are a few topics that I was unable to get to, but hopefully you'll get the answers to those questions in some of my follow-up videos that I'm working on, or after trying the demo for yourselves. The next Granblue Fantasy Relink showcase is happening soon, so if they talk about anything worthwhile, I'll be sure to let you know in a new video or in a community post. There's already a lot that I'm currently working on for Granblue Fantasy Relink, so subscribe if you want to be the first to know when a new video is available. I'll be making some new videos very soon, but for now, here's another that you might find interesting.